Hello there and welcome. My name is Theo van Dort and I'm here in the studio with Denise Naylor, the founder of the Cash Genie Global. And Denise, you're going to be sharing with us, four modules.
That's it.
On how to take better control of your finances.
Absolutely.
So welcome. So Denise,
Thank
before
you,
we
Theo.
start, just tell us a little bit about you and about your history and how you've come to found the Cash Genie Global.
Well, I'm a chartered accountant, British, trained with Deloitte & Co. in the City of London. And I was born in this country. My parents came from overseas, my father from Ireland and my mother from Canada. I went to a girls' grammar school in Surrey. And when I announced to my school headmistress that I wanted to be an accountant, she responded, "No, you can't be an accountant, that's not ladylike." So that kind of, tempted me. And I was one of the first ladies, as we were called, to join Deloitte's. There were 8 of us in a class of 200 in 1975. And I went on to qualify with Deloitte's and to make my career in accountancy.
8 of 200?
Yes.
Wow.
I know. And the first day we discovered, when we were in the offices, they didn't even have ladies' toilets.
Oh, really? What, so you were amongst the first?
Mm-hmm. There were secretaries, but they worked in a different building.
Right.
Yes, we were the first
Groundbreaking.
ladies on the professional staff.
Yeah.
As they phrased it in those days.
Fabulous.
Extraordinary. And yes, and then I went on to I've run accounts departments, I've been a financial regulator in the City of London, I'm an author, and I've worked overseas. I've been a university lecturer part-time for over 30 years. And coming up to my retirement, well, I'm not retiring, but I wanted to really do something for young people as we enter the global economy, because there are some changes taking place. I don't think your education necessarily prepares you for, and I wanted to give you some pointers to how you can lead a financially independent life without necessarily giving up your job.
So that's why you've came up with the Cash Genie Global. So introduce us to the problems and what their solutions are.
Well, would you agree with me, Theo, that many people have conflict about money, around money?
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes the conflict is quite extreme. Well, just picture the scene. I'm coming down to breakfast in my father's house in the family home. I'm 16 years old. "Denise, what time did you come in last night?" "Well, I wasn't that late, Dad." "You were late, and we had a motorcycle outside. You know you're not allowed on the back of the motorcycle." "No, I didn't come on the motorcycle. Sue rang her dad, and he came with a car to collect us." "Well, in any case, I'm stopping your pocket money."
And how did that feel?
I was pretty cross about it.
It seemed quite unjust, I would imagine.
Yes. The other thing that we have about scarcity is scarcity. Economics teachers are fond of telling us that money is scarce. There's not enough to go round. There's just one pot of money, and it can be split in certain ways, but when it's gone, it's gone. And the third thing that happens is people simply don't know very much about money. As I mentioned, I went to a girls' school in Surrey. Theo, well, you can perhaps picture the scene. We certainly didn't have lessons on how to manage money, because we were being trained to have a very rich husband who would obviously look after the money for us.
Right.
So many people are in ignorance about money. And as a result of the 3 factors, many people are trapped or feel trapped because they don't know how to make their own money, they don't know how to manage their own money, they feel that money is scarce, and there's conflict on the subject, so they don't even feel they can discuss it. Now, in my model, Cash Genie Global, the first module is the Money Mindset Matrix. And in this module, Theo, we look at how you think and feel about money. Some of the ideas that have actually come to you from your childhood days. Because until you know how you think about money, you can't change how you think about money.
Because you don't know what you don't know.
Indeed so. And what you don't know that you don't know is damaging your financial future.
Okay.
Then we change the scarcity model, because we need to change our thinking here too. We need to think more in abundance.
Mm.
And in this module, we look at different ways in which you can become an abundance attractor. So instead of thinking everything's scarce, you can start to see abundance pouring into your life.
And the more you think like that, the more it happens.
It certainly does. The third module, I call it Treasure Trove Detector. Probably the most common thing that people say to me is, but I don't have any money. I don't know where to start. So in the Treasure Trove Detector, we detect where your assets are, where your talents are, what you're good at, what you love doing, and how you can get started on your road to bringing out the financial genius in you. And finally, instead of feeling trapped, we need you to move forward. So in the Momentum Accelerator, we give advice about how when you've started your road to financial independence, you can simply keep going and gain momentum so that you can have as much wealth as you want.
That sounds very nice.
Thank you. So just to summarize, bringing the Cash Genie Global, bringing out the financial genius in you.
Yeah.
You discover your money mindset. You start techniques for changing your mind, so you become an abundance attractor. You use what you have, the treasure you have, your treasure trove, and then you start growing and accelerating your wealth. Now, moving into the money mindset matrix, would you agree with me that how you think about things determines, to a large degree, how you feel about things and therefore your attitude towards it?
Yes, without shadow of a doubt. I'm a big believer that your beliefs lead to your expectations, that lead to your attitude, that leads to your behaviours, and your behaviours lead to the results, and it goes round and round and round.
Very much so. And quoting from Jerry Gillers, poverty comes to the person who is emotionally ready to accept it, which is just a slightly more old-fashioned, perhaps, way of saying what you said. You absolutely have to be ready to accept. Most of us have a poverty mindset. Most of the conversations that take place in today's world are about there isn't enough. But that's poverty thinking, and we need to change that to wealthy thinking. So wealth is attracted to the person who is emotionally ready to accept it, expect it, and enjoy it. Now, I don't know whether you would agree with me, Theo, but that last point maybe is a little bit unusual, enjoying it.
To enjoy it, yeah. Sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of guilt attached to finances and money, isn't there?
There's a lot of secrecy as well. People don't necessarily want to talk about it, and maybe that's true in your family. A lot of people don't know even how much family money there is. So to be as wealthy as you want to be, there are 3 things that you need. First of all, you need to be clear about what you want. Secondly, you need to believe that you will get it. And thirdly, you need some practical skills to put your belief into action. And in this module, we're going to be looking at some techniques for actually working through those steps. You're a business owner, Theo. I don't know whether maybe this part of this went through your mind when you were setting up your business or one of your businesses?
Yes, yeah, it did. You need it. So the clear vision is very important because you need an end goal. You need to know what it is that you're wanting to achieve.
That's correct.
I mean, what is it they say that a goal that isn't written down is a dream.
Yes.
So you need to write. You need to write it down. So your clear vision of what you want. You need an idea. That's why it's very good to put a business plan together.
Yes.
Because then you have actually something that you can aim for, and you've got targets, and you can measure against that.
Correct.
Belief that you'll get it. You have to have belief.
Yes.
Because without it, you will be your own worst enemy. And anybody that tries to question your belief as you go through, it needs to be unwavering. Even though sometimes you may think that I'm not right, but I'm going to keep going with it anyway. And practical skills to put your belief into action. It's just start, isn't it?
Just the start
It is
of it.
just start. Just get on and do it.
Absolutely. Now, the second part of the money mindset matrix is to do with the word model. Would you agree with me that our earliest experiences are formed when we are children?
Yes.
You've got some young children, I believe, at the moment.
Yes, I have a
your
2-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Lovely.
And when you say model, you mean as in to copy another one's behaviour?
Copying what people are doing.
Right.
The first people that we interact with when we're children is our parents, our family, later our teachers, perhaps religious leaders, our neighbours, the friends we play with. It's so important. We just do it automatically. We're modelling.
Yes.
So here in this part of the module, we look at who are you modelling? Who is your model? Who are you copying? And picture the scene. In my father's house, I live with my mother, my father, my younger sister and my grandmother. Every week, my grandmother would pay the tradesmen who came to the house. Now we had milk delivered, the milkman came every day, bread delivered, the baker came, and we also had coal delivered. And during the week, my mother would pile up the coins on the kitchen table in the piles. And on Friday, they would come around the back of the house, knock on the door for their money. Now, when the baker came, he often had cakes as well as the bread, because he knew that we girls were going to be there. And sure enough, we'd rush to the back door. Oh, Mum, can we have the cake? And some weeks we could, but some weeks we knew there wasn't enough money. When it was my grandmother, she used to bustle to the back door with her apron on, and she used to say to the men, I can't pay you this week, but I'll pay you next week. And we usually got our cake. Now, that's a model that I followed all my life. But the interesting thing is this, my sister was also sitting at that table, but she took a completely different lesson from it.
Right.
Whereas I learned you can handle money, just talk to the person about it, negotiate it, keep them waiting a week as long as they agree, and you can still have your cake. My sister learned that it's a worry, it's a problem, there isn't enough money. And she spent many years changing her mind about that.
Right.
So you can't really tell from the incident the model that someone's going to take from it.
Or it's like any, 4 of us were sitting in a cafe and we were to see something happen outside, we would all interpret it entirely differently.
And in fact, if you did a witness statement to the police, it would probably end up as almost sounding like a different accident, wouldn't it? Mm. It's extraordinary. That's right. People say that. So it's really important to dig down into your memory and think, who are you modelling? And if that's not helpful to you, find a new model.
Yes. What's the last M? Manifest.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I'm going to do it again.
Getting clicker happy there.
I certainly am. Cool. Finally, in the model, we look at what people show. How can you tell? For example, supposing you went to someone's house, so you have a friend and you go to their house for the first time, and you meet their family. And you might be sitting there and suddenly you realise, oh, you look just like your auntie. So it's what you show to the world. And, you said earlier yourself, you've got to have a plan, you've got to take action, and that will show up. So what actions you've taken, the results will show up in your life. And after I qualified with Deloitte, I had a job running an accounts department. And my boss was a young man named Chris, tall Englishman. He was always very smartly dressed. He travelled up to London from Chichester. And when he introduced me to the department on my first day, he said to me, Denise, I'm really jealous of you because you trained with Deloitte. He said, I trained with a local firm. I didn't have the advantages that you had. I said, well, Chris, you've done extremely well. How did you manage? He said, well, I started from age 16 writing letters of application for finance directors. Of course, it was ridiculous, he told me. I knew I wasn't going to get it, but I was determined that one day I would get that job. So I kept applying for jobs. And at the time I met him, when he must have been in his mid-30s, I would say, he was already a number 2. And in fact, shortly after that, he did become a finance director.
Okay.
And another lesson I learned from him was he travelled from Chichester to London, and he always travelled first class, even though he couldn't afford it, because he was sending a message, this is how I want to appear, manifest, this is what I'm showing the world, that I'm a person who travels first class. And he absolutely achieved his aim through doing that.
So through manifestation.
Yeah.
Through belief.
Through belief. Through
His
belief.
created his reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the elements of the money mindset matrix.
It's fantastic. And so what would be your piece of advice that you would give to our friend at home right now who's sitting there thinking, okay, so in your years of experience, what's been the biggest shift of mindset that you've had that has taken a positive effect on your life?
Well, I think you don't take for granted what you've been taught, because the world is changing. What you learned when you were a child was absolutely correct for when you were a child, but it doesn't apply now. We're just living in a different world. So don't take it for granted. Question, check who you're following, who you're modelling, and you can achieve what you want by showing that you want it, by your actions, your words, and it will show up. All the wealth and prosperity you want will show up in your life. I'm absolutely convinced of that, Theo. I've just seen that happen so many times.
Again and again. It does seem that way. And it's and often people need to get sometimes very, very low to then fight their way back up.
That's true too.
Because, and funnily enough, and then one good thing happens and another good thing happens and another good thing happens, and it just goes on and on and on and on. Yes. There was that wonderful television program about the chap who basically they wanted people to apply if they thought that they were unlucky, and the most unlucky person, and this guy applied and he said, I am so unlucky. It was Darren Brown. I don't know if you saw the program where they basically said, well, over the next couple of weeks we're going to have actors and people coming into your life and offering you all sorts of coincidences, and you just got to say yes and open yourself up to all of these opportunities that are coming. And then after a couple of weeks they basically got him back in the studio and said, how did you get on? And he said, oh, it was fantastic. This happened and this happened and this happened and this. I couldn't believe how all these things were happening to me. And at the end of them said, there was no one there. There was no film crew. There were no actors. There was nothing. You just changed your mindset.
Yes.
It's very powerful.
Wow. And it's true. Yeah, it absolutely works.
Yeah, yeah. So there we are, the money mindset matrix. So change your mind about money and you can start to create more abundance in your life.
Yes.
Well, we're going to find out more about abundance in a further module. But for now, Denise, thank you very much for sharing, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.